Hello folks, my name is Jim Worthen. The show is Worthen One-on-One. We're here every Tuesday, at 2 o'clock every Monday through Friday, and at 7 o'clock on Friday. We're also on two different platforms, YouTube and TVSB's website. So those are important because this show on Channel 17, Santa Barbara, is only, Goleta to Carpinteria. And most of what we talk about encompasses at least the whole county, if not the whole state, the whole nation. We even get into straightening out the world, we're pretty good. I could do that, yeah. I don't have a sense of humor. The guest today is the candidate for assembly in the
37th
37th Assembly District. That's right, there's 80 assemblymen. But that's amazing when you say there's 80 assemblymen. That means your district has almost 500,000 people in it. Anyway, now we debate this. How do you say sorry?
It's Sari. It's like Mary, but with an S.
I can't pronounce Worthen yet, so
okay. I understand.
In fact, I have friends that said, you speak Worthenese, not English. Sari Domingues, you're Hispanic.
I have Hispanic in me, but I'm Portuguese too.
Aren't Portuguese Hispanic?
They're
on the
We're
end
close.
Of,
We're neighbors.
on the end of Spain.
Yes.
No, Portuguese, a lot of people don't realize that it's a completely separate language, but also it's the language of Brazil and Angola.
Yes.
And someplace in the Orient that was a Portuguese colony too. They got around. So you half and half?
Kind of, yeah. But my other half is Spanish, Mexican, Indigenous American. I'm not sure where
So you're like the rest of us.
I'm an American. Oh my gosh! And I got more and more. And I got 1s and 2% of all these other things too. So yes.
I tell people I've raised horses, I've raised dogs, and there's nothing as good as the mutts and a purebred of anything is got problems.
Yeah.
Usually diseases and insanity, and if you don't believe me, look at the Eastern liberals. There's strange thinking people. So you're married.
Yes, I am.
Your husband puts up with this.
Oh, yes.
He's supportive.
Very supportive, yes.
And you have 3 children?
Yeah, 3 boys, 3 sons.
And one of them has a job that's kind of prestigious in Santa Barbara County, principal of...
Well, he was, yes. For 10 years, he was principal of Santa Maria High School.
Santa Maria High for 10 years.
Yes. Joseph, my oldest.
Was his last name Domingues
too?
Joseph
Domingues.
So there's...
People know who he is.
So there's 10, class of about 1,000 each year, 10,000 kids knew Principal Domingues, your son.
Yes, they did.
Well, many of them are voting now, you have to remind them.
Right, yes, yes.
What caused you to take on what many politicians think is a impossible task due to the difference in the disparity in the political registration?
Well, first of all, I know when I decided to run and I started looking at the numbers, and there were people actually come to me and told me my face, oh, you're not going to win. So the thing is I plan to win. And things have changed so much and have been changing that I think people realize it. And the last 3 years, the things because I watch all news, I watch everybody talk. I like it because I'm a natural analyst, so I always analyze. And people are going to the pumps. Gas is $5 by where we get it now. In some places, it's $6 here in California. People they're affected by that. And when you go to the store, I mean, hamburger was my cheap meat, and it's not cheap anymore. But other things, the prices, I mean, your last 2 holidays, if you cook at home for the holidays, it's doubled. Yeah. Every year it's gone up, and this last year it was, a lot. So I think people are now in a place where they're feeling the change. And yes, change has been coming, but it's not been good change. And it's all, what I've analyzed is there's a party, and I'm calling it a sub-party of the Democrats, because I don't want to put the Democrats down or anything like that, because my mother was a Democrat.
No, there's registered Democrats, and then there's a hierarchy.
There's a subgroup going on, and there's lots of different subgroups that aren't really that good. And if you really look and see what they're doing, and I've been looking at the bills that have been written, I've been looking at things, I've been reading, I've been watching what our governor's been doing, and a lot of people do not like what our governor's doing. Our debt. There's just really a lot of bad things happening in California, let alone our county.
Let's go back to your skill set.
Okay.
I like to say you are a government watchdog within the government. You're not a bureaucrat, even when you're hired by government agencies. Explain what you've done and where.
Okay. So my career started out at a school district, and then I went to work at Santa Barbara County, and I was there like 12 years. And during my jobs and raising my children, I did go back to school, and I did more computer work, analysis, databases, set up computers, got them ready for the people on the desk, and really enjoyed that area. It really fit me well. So when I went back to school, I decided, no, I'm going to take business management, because I was more interested in how management worked in the county, because I was learning my skill and going to places to where I could hone in on it and learn it well. So, and then of course my master's I got was in organizational leadership. And sometimes that's kind of like a thorn, because when I started learning all about servant leadership and how, because I always felt leadership was a lot better than management. And that's kind of what drove me there. But it really made me see organizations, the government organizations, and the mistakes they were making. Because what I learned was this or that, and I did have the privilege to work with a group with me, and I was able to create a great synergy, great group, and it was really the best time of my career, and it was towards the end of my career. And I really enjoyed working with them, and they enjoyed working with me. But it made me realize what the things that are kind of wrong with management, with the government, and you're right, the bureaucracy, I saw it straight on. My family wanted me to go to private because of my skill sets. I says, no, I need to stay in government because they need people like me that are really passionate, really hardworking, want to do the right thing. I was one of those that came in early, and I wasn't packing my desk up at 10 to 5. I was staying through, and then I went in management too, so I got to see the higher level of how they think and what they're doing, why they make decisions. And sometimes it was good, but sometimes it wasn't. So
you identified that the bureaucracy was in many times more important than the elected people, that they kind of just put up with what the bureaucrats told them should.
Oh yeah, they definitely went along with whatever political things were happening. Because there was many times they'd have meetings and they would talk about something that's coming on for vote or this or that or what they're going to have to do. And a lot of things that we had to do because, like the Obamacare, it cost us a lot of money and time to configure our system to report on the people that are insured, to make sure they were insured, and report on it. It was a tremendous amount of work, and it wasn't simple. It was so complex, and it's like, wow, and then things that would come down to vote on, and they'd say, oh yeah, we need to vote this because of that, and most of the time they would want people to vote, or they wanted to go for it because it was going to make money. So, my question now, and I've actually asked my grandchildren, what would you do for money? Because I have limits.
Yeah.
I have limits what I'm going to do for money. And I'll live poor if I have to, because my integrity is much more important than, living high off the hog and having anything I want. So, but luckily, my husband and I have done very well for ourselves, so we're happy, we're comfortable. But anyway, back with the government. So to tie it into what's happening now, I'm very aware of how government functions. And
so you've been working in Santa Barbara County.
I worked in Santa Barbara County 12 years, and then I went up to Monterey County.
So,
and I really did see the differences. But again, same bureaucracy, same, we're going to do things, we want this to happen so we can make this money, we can make that money, but then there's things they would do that would tie things up, or they would agree with something because it was political, even though it may not have been that right. Yeah, so there's a lot of times I'd be like, oh, yeah.
You just made me think of something.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest weapon of thieves today is a computer, not a gun.
Right. And I've been involved with computers since '88.
And you've been catching some of them.
Oh, okay. This is what happens in life. You want to do things, you want to make things, you want to do good. Really, people want to do good. I believe that totally. But then there's this component that comes in and does bad things. And I've seen it with everything I've worked with in computers. I remember one of my professors was talking about the bank cards, okay? Bank cards with a strip on them that, oh, it's going to hold everything, it's going to be so easy, because everybody wrote checks. That was the money out or cash. Oh, you're not going to have to write checks, so your checks won't get stolen, there won't be any fraud. These are going to be something that, are going to be good and safe and secure.
25 years ago,
absolutely. Yeah. And now look where we're at. Even those aren't secure. People are getting them. Our data isn't secure. Oh, these computers. And when computers first came out, I was there and people were worried about their jobs. Oh, I'm not going to have a job. Well, what happened is they kept their jobs. It's just now they had more work they could do. And which was kind of a good thing because, we had to type up letters or documents. And we had to make carbon copies. They want to change on it. Well, you just can't edit it and add whatever. You had to start over, retype the whole thing. Well, when computers came and word processors, you could just take it out and revise it and boom, done. Make as many copies as you want. So it really helped, and it was really positive. But you've got to remember, a computer is a program. It's algorithms and programs. So good people make good programs, but bad people can quickly and easily change that algorithm or do something and make it bad. So it's there in everything we do, and unless we're really on top of the bad things, it can get really bad.
So when I was much younger, 20 years, 30 years ago, there was a quick phrase about computer information: garbage in, garbage out. Mm-hmm. You got the garbage out if you put the wrong thing in. Mm-hmm. And is that still true today?
It is. It is. One of the things I did, I worked in really big database systems with multiple hundreds of tables, and I had to understand all that, and I had to extract data. Well, a lot of the management says, well, I want to be able to extract the data and do it. And it was like, well, you really need to know what you're doing, because I could take certain tables and extract data and get a result that isn't right. Mm-hmm. Again, you write garbage language querying and you get garbage out. So one of my jobs was, when I started querying data, I would do checks, because I would know what was in tables and where those tables came from. So I would do these checks, because if I saw something missing because, oh, I didn't get to that table, or I didn't link it right, because there's different ways, I did my due diligence to make sure when it was finished, the report, the data that came out was correct and actually showed what it needed to. Or I would find errors in tables, missing information, and then I'd get reports out and they give them to the department so they can fill them in and make it correct. So yeah, you still can do bad things with computers. Are easy when, the computers they use nowadays. I was really disappointed because our voting computers. The voting computer should just be a scanner, period, done. Scanner, simple. But no, apparently it's complex and could be this and algorithm. No, that's not right. I know, I understand the problems that they could have in those voting machines. I understand it completely. So
the answer is paper ballots?
I would love to see paper ballots, and I'd like to see them counted that night. It's very doable. It's not hard for people to sit down and count people's dots, and if you have people watching and monitoring and you do it correctly, you can do it pretty efficiently and accurately. And yeah, what an awful idea. Sometimes I think we have to go back to how we did things so that it can be done right again, especially when it's gone so far bad. When things get so far bad, you kind of have to back up and say, okay, where was it good and why? And that's kind of how I think. California was a great state. We had a lot of money, we were prosperous, we had safety, we had everything. What happened? And when I say you back up, I don't mean we're going to go live in the 50s and 60s again. That's just not going to happen. But you see what worked, what systems worked. And you make sure you re-implement them. You have to go back, you have to change back to what works. We become very compliant on letting things happen, and nobody does anything about it. And you just, whatever your life environment is, that's just what you live, most people. Okay, I have food, I have a house, and even if you don't, oh well, that's my lot. No, we need to really pay attention to what's around us, because there's so much good that's possible.
When you look, Monterey County, Santa Barbara County, when you looked at a project, did you start with what the goal and plan was and then verify the outcome?
So what I would do, well, first of all, I implemented the system. So I knew all the components that were part of the system and understood. And I was at that. So I would work with subject matter experts, the head of HR, the head of payroll, the benefits person, the retirement person, financial person, all these components. I would work with those, what they called subject matter experts. So I had to learn what they needed. How do we do payroll? What deductions, we have, what pays we have, what special pays we have, how to set up an employee, and they would learn it and they would know what they need, and then we'd make sure we put it in, and then they would look and see it good, and then I'd run a report and they'd look and they make sure, oh yeah, that's looking really good. All that data that we need's there. So I would have to work with them to know what results they needed, so that I can work backwards and make sure we got the data in, and then they would review to make sure, yes, it's working the way we need it to work. That's how it works.
When you did it, I'm very oriented to sight. When you did it, there was a report. Could I then read it and see what happened, or was it just a bunch of computer?
You would see the end results. Yeah. I would see the computer. I would write the computer language to extract the stuff out. And part of what I realized early on with myself is that I'm a abstract thinker. So I can see things. I can envision in my head what I need to write, what it would come out if I did this, how that would all work, and play it out in my head to the end. Then I can get down and start working on it and piecing it and building it. And then what I need to do is give the end result to the managers on this is your data that's in there, and this is what's been put in, this is your result. And then I'd also look at it to find holes and missing data, and then give it to them so that their staff then will input certain thing that was missing, and then of course the report would come out all good with the data that they need. So yeah, I have to think abstractly.
The more I
everything.
talk to you, the more I think you should be treasurer or controller of the state, but maybe in the future.
Maybe, yeah.
Start out.
But yeah, so I'm very knowledgeable as far as what payroll needs to do. And then also setting up the positions, people's position, because that drives all the coding to pay whatever they need to pay. Know what benefits were about, know what the retirement system and how to configure that, the percentages that's matched and such. But also the financial, because I had to write code to bring data from the HR and the payroll over, it had to go over into the financial. And then the financial would receive it and they would run reports. And if they saw things that weren't right, then I had to find out where it was run wrong in the payroll to correct it, so when they get it, it's corrected. So it's constant.
You're such a nice person. You didn't go to somebody in payroll where you know there was a problem and say, "You idiot, you didn't do that right."
Never. Never.
How
They
did-
might have said that to me, but I would never say it. I might have got upset once, but only because someone was trying to do something that was not going to work, and they were arguing me, and so I had to sit down with them to show them, okay, let's walk through this. And
Did you ever catch dishonesty, embezzlement, misuse of funds?
No, I wasn't responsible for that kind of stuff. That wasn't my job. More data oriented, and finding errors so that we're not overpaying people or underpaying people or whatever. That really wasn't my job to look for that. But if that was, I could have.
So you did this kind of oversight analysis, if I'm using the correct term, in 2 counties. And what are you doing right now?
I'm retired. I retired and took care of my mother till she passed away, which was wonderful time to have with her. She's a lovely person. And you
How
say
old was she?
She was 93 when she passed.
Good genes.
Yes, I hope so. And I am a lot like my mother. And then now I babysit 2 days a week my little grandbaby. She's turned 10 months old. And I'm loving all that. So, and then trying to get my campaign going and working with Moms for Liberty and doing that. So I'm very busy. But my husband, he calls it all my hobbies. He says, "Oh, it's okay. You can have those hobbies." He supports me.
When you go off to the assembly,
yes,
and somebody calls the house, "Oh, she's in Sacramento on her hobby."
Doing her hobbies. Yes.
Let's look at some of the problems in the state.
Yes.
The big one in the last few weeks is, oh my gosh, we're $70 million.
Billions.
Billion.
$73 billion and probably more. Oh, yeah.
And I have an answer for 17 billion of it, which is a juggling act. There's no answers there.
Yes.
How do you answer? First, how do you get into that?
Exactly. Well, I'm hoping if I get up to the assembly, I can get on a budget.
When?
Yeah, when I get to the assembly in Sacramento, I want to be on a budget committee because, there's a lot that needs to be done, and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to make people feel good at times, and it's going to be very hard. And someone told me, running for like assembly or running, it can be a very painful thing. So it's like, okay, I'm ready, bring it on. But, when you are in debt, the first thing you do is you stop spending. Yeah, what an idea. You have to wear your shoes a little longer and your clothes over and over again, because you really can't go buy new clothes and shoes. You don't go out to eat because that's expensive. You don't go to the movies. You just don't buy. You just stop. And then you look and say, okay, where can I cut back? When I go grocery shopping, I can buy cheaper this or cheaper that, or go to a store that's less pricey. You cut back. You maybe don't water your lawn as much. You don't, you know what I mean? You do your yard work and don't hire somebody. All kinds of ways you cut back. Some things you cut down, some things you cut off. I don't, at this point, because I'm not there, I don't know what it is, but that's what's got to be done. So I'd love to look at it and talk with my other assembly people and talk about it, have real discussions on what is really necessary and what isn't. And how can we cut back so it's not too painful? But it's going to be painful too, because we can't be, this debt is growing. It was 63 billion a few months ago when I first got into this and started looking. It's now 73 billion. It's growing, and it's got to be stopped. And that's why I'm going to go up there. I want to give it a shot to stop all this.
In my brief time in Sacramento as a legislative assistant, years ago, I saw that the budget came by different agencies presenting what they wanted. And frequently, the legislators didn't really look into it and say, no, we don't want. And more frequently, today, there's not competitive bidding, is there?
No. There's about 2,400 bills right now on the table. And they have, I forget the date, but it's like another week or two in a month that they have to decide on which ones they're going to push through or not, because they're all budgeted. They're all part of the budget. So that's what they're working on. So really, it is an onslaught. I'm not going in this naive and dumb. I know I am a realist, and I do know what's there. And yes, we're going to need a lot of legislators to really think this through and really work on all this stuff. And we're going to have to work hard, because it's not an easy solution, and it will take time, but we've got to straighten our state up, because it's affecting everybody in the state and our counties.
As you've just pointed out, these budgets come down to a deadline, and there's a rush, and people don't read them. I don't know if they still do it, but I can remember on June 30th, when the new year started, July 1st, sometimes the clock got stopped for 3 days. And June 30th was 72 hours.
Right.
And do they still do that?
I'm not sure on those specifics.
Yeah, but
I've actually did go up there last month and got to talk to some of our assembly people, and saw who was out there doing, talking to them, and so it was a nice little experience. I plan to go there again and again, because there's things I want to see and experience. Yes.
Do you try and visit your opponent's office?
I guess I could have, but I didn't. I figured,
But
maybe I will one of these times when I go up there and they're in session. So
you're just so nice.
Well,
you're too nice.
I've been told that, and I thank them, because what's better to be nice, but yet I'm strong, I'm stubborn, I'm knowledgeable. So don't write me off that you're going to get me to do things, because no, I know what needs to be done, and I'll make sure we get it done.
The velvet hammer.
Yeah, well, what do you want to call it that? Because,
so that budget issue is, your answer is you got to stop spending.
Yeah, you got to stop spending, you got to cut.
Where your opponent and his party want.
He wants status quo. He wants status quo.
Well,
he
they want more money.
They want to keep going the way they're going. That's what I mean. And the way they're going is, they're looking for money. They're not going to cut back. They're not going to stop spending. They're looking for more money. So that's where he sits.
Besides, and we'll probably come back to the money issue, there's two issues that have been a shock to people locally. One is the state doing away with zoning and regulations at the local level.
Yeah.
So just saying that through different legislation, like a right to build and a right to expedite building permits so the local entities don't have any control over what's going on.
Right.
How do you feel about that movement?
Well, that's another example. One thing I've started realizing, and early on, even before I started running, watching how our country's run and understanding our Constitution, and they're just ripping it apart. They're ripping apart the United States Constitution. They've taken the California Constitution and have completely added hundreds of pages of things. Okay? So, the Constitution, our federal government is at the top, but they only have so much responsibility and power. The states are supposed to take care of their state, and they really are supposed to have a little more power. And then your local and county governments have the most power because they're the closest to the people. It's been flipped upside down. The states and federal are controlling everything where your local, and it's a shame because the local ones should be making the decision because it's at the local that can be done, things can be done more custom of what their community's like. You get it from the state, it's one size fits all. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because we're such culturally diverse, and which is a beautiful thing. And so you have levels of everything and people, and you need to customize things. This is why people are homeschooling. This is why there's private schools, because that's allows people to do things a little differently than just sitting in a public school.
Well, years ago, Mike Stoker and I pointed out that there is no separate entity, the County of Santa Barbara or the County of Monterey. The counties are strictly a division of the state. And so the state can tell where it really hit was when the state got in deep financial trouble about 15 years ago and just came in and took the money out of county budgets.
Right.
And said, this is our money, you know, pound sand. Now they can't do that to most cities.
Right.
But they have ultimate ability to dictate things to the county level. And that's not going to change. So, but that's needs more watchdog.
Exactly, you're right. And talking about change, why shouldn't it change? Why doesn't the state allow the county to be their own entity, just like cities are their own entity? Again, being closer to the people, you can hear their voice, you can help and make your community the way the community wants to be made. The state, there's a lot of things the state can do and needs to do statewide, a lot of things to keep them pretty busy. So I don't know why they're trying to grab all this other stuff and dictate.
Got enough to do.
Exactly. So so I'm excited to get up there because I do want to work with our county and our cities and everybody here and really get a pulse of what they see, how they see things.
It's interesting you say, why can't the counties have more power and less with the state? It's not a good example today because of the people who are in control, but there is one county, it's called the City and County of San Francisco. They are a blended government of the full city and the county is one entity. There isn't a board of supervisors. Everywhere, people don't realize this, there's 5 supervisors in every county except San Francisco. And it's because, as you were alluding to, they did the hybrid. And as you're suggesting, maybe that hybrid should be applied to Mono County, not like Ventura County. So this imposing of regulations from the state on the counties and therefore the cities, another area of state intrusion now, besides doing away with local zoning, it has caused the ingrowth of residential housing into commercial areas, and the doing away with the single family
Right.
home.
Yeah, I
And-
know that's their goal.
But all that is legislation. Your opponent is responsible for that. I'm guessing you're saying yes, but so the fact that your neighbor on a 10,000 square foot lot is building a 2-story building behind you and you have no control over it is kind of his responsibility. It's the state's responsibility. Is that accurate?
Yeah, now it is. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of these stack and packs, we call them stack and packs, going up. And, you know, it might be a good idea in a sense that beginner people that need to rent have a place, you know, that they can afford, maybe. But ultimately, I'm going to tell you, realistically, people want to live in their own home with their own little yard. Even if it's a tiny home, they want their yard, they want their privacy. When you start pushing everybody into these multi-complex things, you start becoming like a big city, because that's what the big cities had to do, to accommodate and build up and compact. I don't think it's good for human natures to be living like that. You know, not permanently. I've lived in condos, and luckily I had an end unit, but you know, you do have a neighbor right there that you have to be careful with. You have to be, you know, and it's kind of stressful. So we did move back into a single family home, and we just love it. And so I don't think we need to do away with single family homes. I'd like to see us starting to build lower end single family homes.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have to have the big mansions and stuff, but we build lower end. Even smaller homes are fine. And as it is, you know, your lot lines are a lot tighter, and I kind of thought, oh, that's not good. Yeah, I'd like to see a little bit more yard, but it still gives them their privacy, their home, and that's the American dream. It's not to live in a stack and pack. I'm sorry.
The traditional, I come from a real estate background besides politics. Traditionally, you have 5,000 square foot lot and a 900 square foot home with 3 bedrooms, and you know, and people wanted more, but it ran away with it because investors and builders realized they could get more money for more house, and you know, the inflation caused by that pressure, but also you guys in state government, impose more and more regulations and control to the point that 30% of the cost of a home today, or any building, is government planning and performance and fulfilling their...
It's bureaucracy at its finest. And and again, it's about what people really want and how do we really need to live. And again, it comes back to family. We want families, and we want them. It's kind of, I've been reading up different stories about how, I guess after World War II in Europe, because everything was so destroyed so bad, they went ahead and built apartments and stuff and moved everybody in these cities in apartments. But it didn't last but a few years. They all went back to their farmlands and rebuilt because that's how they like to live. It makes me very worried. It makes me worry a lot when I see the stack and packs go up. That's what I call them, because
you of all people, with your computer knowledge and your analytical knowledge, must see, and I don't understand it, the disbursement of populations at the same time there's a concentration of population. People can go take their job and go to the foothills of the Sierra or to Montana and still do their job now. And but human nature is we want to live together. You know, we want to go out and have a neighbor, and
yes.
it's conflicting human desires. Are we doing away with personal freedom to make those decisions and government making them?
Well, I do see where things are going or have been, and things are changing very differently. How can I put this? And I don't know if it's really good the way we're going. And I'm hoping as human beings that we realize it and we back up and say, you know, it's better living this way. We want to go back to living this way. Because, but so many people get used to living whatever they're told, and it changes so little that before you know it, you know, this is just how life is. But does it have to be? That's what you need to ask. Does it really have to be?
Question.
Yeah.
How do you feel about privatizing some of the government functions you've seen?
Well, I'm actually for it, because when you're a private company, you can be shut down, you know, but again, when you privatize, you might get better quality of things being watched and ran, but then also you can run into the private companies getting bought out and turning just as bad as what we're seeing in our government. So it's a catch-22, but I do believe in smaller government. Yeah. I think it's gotten way too big. And why? Well, because they think they got to take care of everybody. And you know what? No. We take care of ourselves. The family takes care of each other. The community takes care of the community. That's what it's really about. And things are going haywire. And a lot of it is because of this. Again, I'm going back to the subgroup of these Democratic people because I'm sorry, some of their ideas I've been hearing about aren't good. And we've seen things happening. Things are happening right now. I hope to open people's eyes, because if we don't stop it, things are going to get real serious.
Well, your opponent voted for a bill that allows, I guess it's transgender athletics, allows boys to compete in girls' sports.
He's voted just on a lot of bills about our children and about the transgender and this LGBTQ that they're pushing everywhere. I went and spoke at a board meeting because the LGBT community, what it's really about is really an adult subject. And I told him that. It's an adult subject. So when these children grow up and learn about it then, they can decide as an adult. Okay? I hope they don't. I mean, I hope anyway, for different reasons. So, but no, they're wanting to push it down into the children. And what for? Oh, because we want to show them that they're nice people. We don't have to be mean to them. Well, I don't really see a lot of people being mean to them. In my world, okay? And I worked in a company where I was dealing with the system when they said that they could marry, they could have benefits, right? I configured the system so that it paid the benefit according to the law, because it was a little different than regular employees. So we'd make sure we set them up and they got that benefit. I worked with them. They were great people and great workers. They did the job. That's all I cared about. I don't care about people's personal side unless, of course, they're breaking the law. Other than that, I don't see color. I don't see things unless it's bad. Then I might, okay, that's not nice. You shouldn't be doing, something like that. It's breaking the law. And I'm talking breaking the law. We're going down a very slippery slope bringing this in. And I think it's going to do some damage. They want to do good, but it's going to do damage.
Well, let's go into that area because the legislature has influence on all these areas. Tell me, I'll give you what I see as a picture right now. 10% of children are homeschooled, 10% are in parochial schools, and the rest are in some form of public schools. What can we, where does that education stand right now?
It's not good. It's not good. And you know, I was very involved with my children when we went to school. I was on PTA. I was the president for 5 years, and I was in the classroom. I was very involved, and you know, and then they grew up. My grandchildren go to school, so I'm somewhat involved. I mean, I'm aware of what's going on, and I don't like what's happened to my grandchildren. So I started paying more attention. And when I retired, after my mother passed away, I had time, and that's why I started the Moms for Liberty, because I kind of saw what they're looking at, and I really thought to myself, oh, not in our county, not in Santa Maria. You know, maybe it might come, but I don't think so. Well, I knew it was coming. Because my son was a principal, and he didn't like what was coming in. And that's kind of one of the reasons he retired early. I have a lot of family that are teachers, and so I started looking. And started seeing, yeah, it is there. And even this last year that I've had my Moms for Liberty, I've seen it go from, okay, this is starting up. Now it's like, oh gosh, yeah, they're introducing this, they're doing that. The curriculum, my opponent has said yes to really bad curriculum. He said yes to bills that take away the parent rights. These children can say, oh, I'm feeling this way and I need to see a professional, and the schools will help them, and you don't need to tell the parent. When somebody says don't tell your parent, that's a big red flag for me. Parents need to know everything about their child, good, bad, or ugly, and they need to deal with that. That's their job. Education, teach them and deal with the parents, but it's all, you know, you have to. And I think they've made education so complex on these children. I think they are causing a lot of children to have anxiety, and then they're not really learning. You know, some of our school districts have really bad scores on their reading, writing, and math, or reading and math, because that's the core. That's what we got to get back to. And I really want to get back to that, especially with the younger kids, because I don't understand why they don't understand children. That's their job. Children mature differently. They learn differently. They have different problems. Now, when children are in school with other children and they try to be mean, you need to teach them, if anything, the rules and boundaries. That's about all the extent of outside teaching, okay? We really need to customize the way we teach our children and help them to really learn early on. And I mean just the basics. Because if you can read and write and you can do math, then you can take care of yourself financially. You can understand the world through reading, and comprehension, you know, and then you can write and be able to fill applications and do jobs that are, you know, that you need to know how to write.
Kids are graduating not able to do that.
No, they can't. My son's a high school teacher, and he has kids that come in that are like third grade level reading, and here they have this high school textbook. So it's a problem. It's a problem, and everybody's like trying desperately to say, oh, I got the fix. But they're trying things that haven't even been proven. And they're also introducing what I'm calling ethnic studies. Well, that's something that isn't really, I don't think, a very good subject the way they're doing it.
Why?
Because I looked at the curriculum, state curriculum, and what they're doing is they're picking certain race ethnicities, and then they're telling the children all the horrible things that happen to them, and then the ethnicities that cause that. And it's like, no, if you're going to think ethnic studies,
critical race theory.
Yeah, you talk about all ethnicities, the good and the bad. Okay, if there's some bad, great, but also the good, so they can see the world as this, oh, okay, not bad, because really it's just causing, I mean, I'm thinking a lot of children could be very depressed if they start hearing just bad.
Anxieties.
Yes, and they do have it, and they do, I know.
Confusion.
Then when they're that, they add more to them. So it's ridiculous. Kids should not have anxieties at school. Maybe at home, okay, but hopefully parents will deal with that. But it doesn't help to add it to the schools. And the other thing that's coming down on the curriculums that I've been watching is sex ed.
Sex ed?
Yeah.
Well,
it's really different than the sex ed that I went through when I was in elementary and high school. But for some reason...
For juniors and seniors.
Yeah. No, 6th grade, the girls went and the boys. Well, they do it mixed company now. And then in high school, it was the talk in the big auditorium about all the diseases you can get if you're going to go mess around. Okay? Okay, I didn't want that. Well, now, no. It's mixed company. They're showing you how to have sex, all the different kinds of sex. It's not good. There's no responsibility taught behind it. Because really, it is a responsibility. It's being responsible. It's emotional. When kids are already emotional with their changing, what is going on? These teachers shouldn't, these people that are helping with education, it's not rocket science to understand a child's innocence, because children are innocent and they shouldn't be exposed to adult stuff because their brain isn't developed. And actually, their brain really doesn't get developed till they're like 25, actually.
Or some of us.
Well, some it might take longer. Okay, I understand what you're saying.
I'm still working on it.
But they're pushing this down to even kindergarten level. And I'm going to tell you who's behind it, who's writing curriculum, who's funding it. Planned Parenthood.
Really?
ACLU. Yeah.
Well, I've always...
So I'm thinking, well, why is that? Oh, well, of course they want to teach young kids sex so that when they get pregnant when they're 10 or 8, they can give them more abortions. What? I don't understand. It's not a subject for children. It's a very high-level subject for them. You know what I mean? So why? Why do they think the children need to know all this? Why do they need to know all about the LGBT community and what that means? And
with Planned Parenthood, they commit a criminal act frequently, and that is if a girl comes in who's 15 and they find out that the man involved is over 18, that's statutory rape, but they don't report it.
Well, another thing they do from the very start, you can come to us and we won't tell your parents. Again, red flag, let's not tell your parents. I'm going to be a safe place, you don't have to tell your parents. Anybody that wants a child not to tell their parent is a big red flag and is wrong. And then they say, oh, well, if we tell the parent, they might get beaten up and whatever. Well, you know what? If that happens, then you report them to social services, and those children, then that gets dealt with.
Yeah.
Because that is wrong.
Yeah.
And I think most parents would be saddened or hurt if things like that happen, because those are life decisions that are happening to their children. Those are lifelong decisions, and you're not involved. The parents want to be involved. Whether they like it or not, it hurts them or not, they'll deal with it, and they'll deal with it with their children, especially if they love their children and they're a family. But we do know we don't have a lot of family structures, and things bad are going on, and they're there. And you know what? This is a perfect way to find out those bad situations and take care of them, because we're not. And so that's what I got to say about that. That's concerning me.
Sounds to me, and that your campaign has a focus on personal responsibility.
That's one of my values. My values: responsibility, common sense, morality, and accountability. Those are what I honestly try to live by. I'm not perfect, but that's what I try to live by and have taught my children. And those are the 4 things have to kind of match for me to say yes on a vote. They kind of hit those good. They're all okay, got some moral to them. They're, common sense, responsible, and we can be accountable for it. I'm all for it.
And institutionally, the family.
I'm about family, yes.
The schools that parents are involved in.
Yes, parent rights, yes.
Church.
Yes.
You're old-fashioned.
I am, and I'm conservative. But you know what? I came from a wonderful family with cousins and brothers and sisters, and we're all still close because that's what our family did. And I know there's a lot of families that do that. You know, we got together, the whole family, for holidays. My husband, every Sunday, we'd have to go to the house, gather for the house for the barbecue. And I know people do this all the time, and that, you know, sitting at the dinner table with a family with no phones and stuff. Those are traditions that we shouldn't lose because they're good traditions.
Well, you preach to go back to those, but government has replaced so much of that.
They're stressing families out because the economy's bad. They're teaching children things that are way above their maturity. There's a story I read, and it was written by a lady that was like 90, and I had the picture of her, and she said, when I was young, we were on a train, I was on the train with my father, and I was a young girl, maybe 8, and I says, Dad, what's sex sin? Because Auntie gets mad whenever we say that. Well, he didn't say anything to her.
We're down to the last 2 minutes.
Oh.
How can people help you?
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, the moral of the story is they takes his bag down and says, can you carry that for me? She couldn't. It was too heavy. He says, when you can lift that bag, I'll tell you about it. In other words, there's subjects that are too heavy for these children. Mm-hmm. But yes, how you can help me. I'm looking for endorsements. I'm looking for help with funding because there's a lot of mailings and things I need to do that are going to cost me money. You can go on my website. I'm going to start updating it. And it's SARI4 assembly.com.
Sorry.
Yes, and I need people to help me. I'm ready to get meetings and get together, and if you want me to speak with somebody, your groups, I'd love to speak with them.
So you'd go to service clubs?
Everything.
Churches?
Yes.
Boy Scouts?
Everything.
Everybody.
Yeah, and I'm not even just limiting myself to my party. I want to talk to everybody.
Yeah.
I want to listen and hear. I've been hearing wonderful things from people, so good, bad, ugly, that's okay. Need to know.
Well, you sure have my vote.
Thank you.
Not that matters a lot.
Oh, it does matter.
Worthen's for Sari.
There you go.
You got 2 in this
Good.
county.
That's good.
God bless you and thank you.
And thank you, Jim.